Well, Brant, for our first topic today, you wanted to talk about something near and dear to your heart. What's going on, man? What's weighing on your heart right now?
I tell you what, Nate, it's something I love. It's something that a lot of people love, but it's starting to become a growing trend and a little bit of a not an annoying one, but an overused one. It's field rushing in college football. Don't get me wrong, man. I am always for a good field rush in college football. But I feel like nowadays, you're not only seeing one every week, you're seeing two or three, possibly even four every week. I don't know if it's ever gotten that high, but they're becoming more of a trend, and to me, they're losing their specialness. I'm all for a good field storm. I know there are a lot of people out there who love a good field storm, but if anyone and everyone's doing it, then it all of a sudden becomes not so special. So a couple points I kind of want to touch on, Nate. First, my question to you: what's your thoughts on it? Has it gone too far?
Well, Brant, I'm all with you. I love a good field storming. I feel like it's one of the most exciting things about college football. A small program that has no business winning a game beats a top 10 team. The fans are on the field. They tear down a goalpost. They take it to the river. It's so much exciting, but it's starting to lose its value quite a bit because it's everybody's doing it now. Everybody's starting to do it for any win with any value. If even if they were favored by 3 points, they're storming the field. And the fines, the crowd doesn't care about the fines that are going to the school. So there's got to be a harsher punishment. I'm just not sure what that is.
To piggyback off of that, I did a little bit of research. I wasn't able to find much. Surprisingly, there's not a lot of research on there about drunk fans rushing onto the field after a college football game. But one thing that I did find somehow was that in 2018 there were 10 field storms. In 2019 there were 14. And though I haven't been able to find any numbers past that, it was a 2021 article I think I was looking at after Wisconsin was upset by Illinois and the Illinois fans rushed the field. Um, that gave me some statistics there. Um, but all of them that I were able to find were unranked opponents over top 10 opponents. So there's a list of them this year that I wrote down that to me are stupid. You have no business running on the field. As recently as this weekend, two of them, Tennessee over Alabama and Illinois over Michigan. I get the Tennessee, you beat Alabama. Really, the trend of the field storming really started to catch popularity after Tennessee beat Alabama the first time, tore down the goalpost, threw it in the Tennessee River. That's really when it grew its popularity. But the second time you did it, tore down the goalpost again, didn't get it out of the stadium. Great job by Tennessee security on that one. Um, it's kind of one of those things. Okay, it wasn't as much of an upset as it was last time. It wasn't really much of an upset back in 2022, but you know, you kind of expected that Tennessee had a good chance to win this game, whereas in 2022, everyone just figured that Alabama was going to be Alabama and Tennessee was going to lose that game. The second one, and I'm a little bit biased on this, you are too, Nate, Illinois over Michigan. I know it's a ranked win, but they were ranked higher, 22 versus 24. Um, they won by 14, but if you know Michigan at all this year, something we'll get to a little bit later, it's really not that impressive of a win. Now Michigan's unranked. They have 4 wins, and 3 of them have come to non-power five opponents. Um, Michigan's just not really all that impressive. So I was a bit shocked to see Illinois rush the field. Same thing with Washington a few weeks ago. I can give a little bit of credit to that because Michigan at the time was a top 10 team. It's a rematch of the national championship game. They lost that game back in January, and that meant a lot to them. So coming in and getting this revenge on Michigan, I can kind of excuse that, but at the same time, you're rushing the field against a really bad Michigan team. Other ones, Oregon over Ohio State. Oregon was ranked just as good as Ohio State. Oregon was favored in the game. Same thing with Washington and Michigan. or Washington versus Michigan. Washington was favored in that game. In my opinion, if you're favored to win a game, you have no business being on the field. If you're playing a top five team and you're also a top five team, instance of Tennessee and Alabama, maybe both, even both top 10, we'll just group it into that. You have no business running on the field after the game. There were a couple acceptable ones, though, this year as well. Vanderbilt over Alabama. Vandy, no one gave you a chance in that game. You were multi-digit underdogs. Alabama was going to beat the brakes off of you, everyone was saying, especially coming off the win to Georgia. And you won the game. Okay, good for you. That you have earned that right to rush the field. Go wild. Throw the goalposts in the river. They did. Great time. That's the kind of field stormings I like. Arkansas over Tennessee last weekend. Same kind of situation. Maybe they weren't quite the underdogs that Vanderbilt was to Alabama, but they were big underdogs. Tennessee was the fourth ranked team in the nation. They won the game. They rushed the field, had a great time. One of the teams I respect, Alabama. They beat Georgia, and not one fan ran on the field. I respect the crap out of that, but I guess I'll hand this to you for a second, Nate. What do you think is an acceptable field rush?
Well, Brian, I think there are requirements for it. And there are requirements, and then there are excuses, I guess. First and foremost, in order to really rush the field under any circumstance, it has to be a game that you did not expect to win. That's just the basic. Like if you're not playing a rivalry, if you're, if it was you win by a couple scores, it's got to be an upset, shock the world. If you were ranked better or favored to win the game, stay off the field. Now, it's interesting that you mentioned some rivalries too. That's where I think some exceptions come in. A little bit of exceptions. I would not expect Ohio State to rush the field if they beat Michigan this year, even with the current losing streak that they were on. But if Michigan was a top five team, I'd say, okay, maybe you haven't beaten Michigan since 2019. I'd say it would be excusable. You think about the kick six from Auburn years back. That was a big upset as well. That would have been totally acceptable, in my opinion, if they rushed the field when MSU beat U of M a few years back on the trouble at the snap. If that was in East Lansing, I would have said rush the field. But again, in both those situations I just mentioned, it was a major upset win. But if there's a miracle play involved, I do believe that you have at least a little bit of right to at least think about storming the field.
Okay, that's a good point. That's something that not a lot of people, myself included, think about. Um, I guess really the big question is how does it get stopped? I mean, we were having discussions on this earlier this week. What does the NCAA have to do to prevent this from happening? We've discussed multiple things in the past couple weeks about it because it's been a hot button topic between the two of us. Um, right now it's just a major fine that the students don't care about. The schools care about it, but the students don't. They don't have to pay the fine. So it comes down to either you've got to have a really harsh punishment, like to go as far as to say, if fans run on the field after the game, this school is not allowed to have fans in their stands for their next home game. Just a hypothetical. It's either that would definitely take care of the problem. That's really extreme, but that would definitely take care of the problem. Or like you were saying the other day, Nate, you just have to let loose. You have to let loose of the reins and just say, okay, after every game, it doesn't matter win, lose, blowout, close game, fans are allowed to be on the field, but do it in an orderly fashion. Come down the stairwells. Don't just jump over the wall and start running out on the field. Because I give them credit. It is a big safety issue. When you have fans running all over the place, you have players trying to get off the field, you have, especially in rivalries, you have a lot of tension there. The players for the opposing team aren't happy that they lost this game. Odds are if there's a field rush happening, either it's a major upset or it was a big game. So the opposing players are not going to be happy that that they lost that game. there's going to be a little bit of physical altercation if somebody bumps into somebody or something happens. So it does need to be controlled somewhat, but that to me is how it's going to be stopped. It's either going to be they're gonna have to get a tight grip on it, or they're gonna have to loosen their grip on it. So I guess in the end, at the end of the day, my message to college football is if you didn't have a chance to win the game and you won the game, take the field. But if it's just because you want to party hard and go crazy, stay off the field.